Very good gamers, how are we? This is Games and Chill, and we are in a new video in the updated legendary build. And until Salonen comes out and changes the character, because I do not think he has any more variants outside of what today is his closed team, the last building of NAVIA. One of Genshin Impact's 2 GEO cards with more esteem, with, as I always say, 2 great reasons to throw for it. Taylor Swift, rather well known by much of the community, and on the current banner, at the gates of NATLAN next to Nilou, one of the characters that has most surprised Genshin Impact, and that has moderately revived the GEO element. So you already know how to leave a good like, a good Bennett Altia, subscribe, leave a good comment for algorithm, see us in the directs, link down here in the description. Thank you for enjoying and watching the video and channel, and we go with Taylor Swift's legendary build. Well, first and foremost, I think you all know how NAVIA works, but basically she uses her 3 talents to prioritize her elemental ability as easily. Her normal attack, you know, is imbued with GEO after throwing down the elemental ability for 4 seconds. The combo is elementary normal attacks. Elementary normal attacks about 8-10 seconds in the field and exit, though, in the first rotation. It gives you time to throw up to 3 elementals, but it is not advisable, and that the ulti was commented at the time when it came out that some teams could start pulling the own ulti of NAVIA, but today, and knowing moreover that it benefits from the attack and the damage after throwing your ulti into the ulti of Bennett, it is always much better to put an external source of GEO, as they are albedo, and Chiori mainly, and the ulti of NAVIA. Throw it at the time of entering NAVIA to maximize the damage, the buffos, and the burst of NAVIA. Then, how is the correct combo of NAVIA, since it is to throw elemental albedo to leave the flower already and start to strike with GEO, and generate crystallized for the passive of NAVIA, then elemental ulti of Furina to start with the loads, with the strokes of the pets, and to generate crystallized. After elemental ulti of Bennett on his team core, so that you have the buffo of attack all ready to benefit NAVIA, since Furina no, and albedo does exactly the same. And once you already have all this, when entering with NAVIA, you have to throw the ulti to put the first charged element that already. There are many crystallized in the field to have the 6 loads. Now talked about this to pace the 4 seconds with normal attacks. GEO controls. Throw the second load that the elemental has 9 seconds of cooldown, with which in 18 seconds again rotation. You will again have 2 loads for the next rotation to reglue 4 seconds of GEO after the second load of the second charged elemental and exit. In this way, maximize both the crystallized ones so that the 2 cannons have the maximum damage as well as the maximum damage as the complete equipment by rotation as the maximum individual damage of the NAVIA that is less important than the total of the equipment and the time in the field. To maximize that damage from the entire team now individually that does everything, because very well normal attacks climb decent and imbue 4 seconds of GEO after throwing the elementary skill. The elementary skill is the Paraguazo literally that does a spectacular damage, and moreover the elementary skill has a passive one that also looks very easy, that you will be looking around here on screen, and is that when there is a crystallized in the field, and someone of the team picks it up, does not have to be NAVIA-ized to wound of the 3 bullets. But many times you will realize that you already have the full loads of bullets that there are when all 3 shine basically, and that makes you not have to do a loaded ability, but the normal ability to do the maximum damage, the CD has said, are 9 seconds, with which in 18 seconds you regenerate 2 elementary abilities. Here, after explaining your combo, you have to explain that a lot of people in the first rotation, if you rush very much, gives you time to throw 3 elementals. This does not benefit much, because then the next rotation, you only have 1 elemental, and you literally lose most of the damage of ship. But also many people play it quick, swap to get out into going out into rare teams, and so good because this becomes a little less good more, no less important but the recommendations. That although you see that the CD for the 3rd element comes to you, do not throw it the elemental, has no more as you see. There is a lot of text, but there is not much more. With the elemental and the ulti has 60 of cost, that is not so high equal, you need about 30-35 of recharge to have perma ulti. Has 15 seconds of CD12 of utilization. But the cone reduces you 3 seconds, with which the ulti has 12-12. This matters, or it is important the cone now talked about it. Not because if your elemental has 9 seconds for each gunpowder, you have 2 charges. At first, you will use them basically at 18 seconds. You regenerate 2 loads, with which for each rotation you will throw 2 loads. That is to say that really the ulti is 12-12, does not influence you literally because you will throw it once every 18, or maybe every less. Because you keep a load, and at the most you will throw it effectively every 15, because if you play with the optimal equipment that is Albedo, Barshiorina, and Bennett Furina and Bennett have rotation of 15 as CD of 15 Bennett, and Albedo has rotation even less that adapts to that of 15 and Shiori. Has rotation of 18, to that here would be then 18, 9, and 9 of its elementary ability. Of the cone regarding the ulti is not important, and that its ulti since it is 12 of use and 15 CD. You will try that those 12 seconds are maximized when she is in field, as I have explained to you. The ulti begin to fall on the ground cannons that also do quite damage first talent of Ascension, after using the elementary ability that is its damage, one of the big numbers. The damage of the normal loaded and descending for 4 seconds increases is transformed into GEO, and earns 40% of damage of normal attack loaded and descending. This is what we explained before is more damage when you throw those 4 imbued seconds of GEO passing. Normal second talent of Ascension. The NAVIA attack increases by 20% per each Pyro, Electro, Cryo, Hydro. That there is up to a maximum of Twyo, Hydro. That there is up to a maximum. Because a maximum of 2, because for you to carry NAVIA with another GEO, that generates you crystallized Albedo Shiori. Mainly, you can also use Zhongli, and the other 2 because Furina Bennett is the best combination of NAVIA. Then you have 40% additional attack, plus the attack Bufo of the own Bennett as easily as NAVIA. Now constellations, because in this banner many people like a lot of NAVIA and ask shot or not shoot, as well cone is quite useless sincerely. Gives you more energy with which instead of 35 you can play ship with 125 recharge to build more critical proportion and attack. And because doing much more damage is not bad, and the other thing is the CD that I have explained to you, that reduces 3 in the ulti with which the ulti passes instead of 12 utilization 15 CD. 12-12, the change of CD. Truth is useless, and C2. It gives us 36 probability. Your ability is mental is important, and it is not important, because it is similar to a constellation of Tignari that gives you 15 odds, the loaded explaining the theme of Tignari. It's easier to explain the C2 of NAVIA because I'll give you 15 odds the loaded, and the loaded will be half your damage because the other half is your ulti. Really that 15 probability your loaded could be equated to 7 of general probability so that you understand. If you can compare to equal conditions because this is equal, these are 36 probability in your elementary ability, so that your elementary always makes critical, but you still stick with the normal ones. And it does quite damage. And the same if you do well hits with the ulti, having also taken advantage of Bennett's Bufo. That will make a wreck. The hits of damage that make the ulti of NAVIA, with which is very strong good, it will be worth to have 70 of probability in order not to lose critics in your normals. And in your ulti, if you have 70 plus 36, you go to 106. And you pass, it would be his thing, with the C2 having to NAVIA with 64 exact probability to not waste it. Getting to 164 isn't bad, but really, if instead of 70-75 led 64, you'd lose in C2 compensation, you'd lose damage from those normal attacks. And your ulti, that equals a lot of damage, isn't half. It's pretty less than half, but it doesn't compensate at all. Then actually C2 can be interesting so that Actually, C2 can be interesting, so. Your elemental always jump critical, but it's not a broken C2 if you're interested in NAVIA. I'd say that literally play it at Chero, and its maximum potential, I'll have it equally unlocked, and C2 is more likely, but from what I've explained to you, it's not so important. C3 is the elemental plus 3 to put stronger cannons up. It would be stronger this one here. The C4 reduces 20% of the GEO resistance of the enemies. It is possible that you do not carry any type of reduction of general GEO resistance, with which, if it is important when there are consoles of characters that reduce the resistance, you usually talk about the green shadow or the memories of the forest. And I make a calculation with the theme that when you already lower 100% to the enemies of resistance because the rest of the resistance. The C5 is the last, is 3, and the chicks that when you use the elemental, if you consume more than 3 fragments, i.e. the 6 passives to do more damage, each fragment above the 3rd gives you 45 years critical to that ability. This is to whether the easiest proportion to invest more in attack or wear an attack helmet. And for your elemental, because it makes several million like the gameplays that there are wilds on the internet NAVIA, make 0 does all its work very well. does not depend or improve too much with the constellations, and it is crazy. The sets basically I will recommend in all cases its set is the set of Murmur of the Forest, 2 pieces 18% attack, and 4 pieces Trozar the elemental ability gets 20% damage, GEO, 10 seconds. And if you have crystallized because you earn 50% damage, GEO summary, 18% attack, 50% GEO damage, there is some set that gives to ship. More of this, and that contributes to it. For the damage that has its synergy, more than what this set brings to it, is not worth a ghost hunt. Since she doesn't lose life if you go with Furina, not because if you're only going to be in Furina to activate the Ghost Hunter, there will be occasions where you don't activate all the loads, and you lack 12 chances, don't make critics, lose damage, and well, etc. What explained other videos, sir. I would recommend you go full to his domain so that you get the full set without any other alternative, and the 2 and 2 because it would be all you can of 2 attack, 2 of attack, 2 of attack, 2 of attack, 2 of attack. But the difference is abysmal to carry 18 attack with 15 of GEO versus 18 attack 50% of GEO is to double the bonus of the set, so it is to go directly to take out a full set, And now the substats that have to be then recharge up to 135 so that it has perma ulti critical proportion and attack percent critical proportion. Have to try because always to reach the Capio that NAVIA has the possibility to do it is to say to approach 70 of probability and approximately 230-140 critical damage. Do not look for mastery for crystallized ones, do not look for flat attack, and do not look for other things outside of the recharge, the proportion in priority. And by the very last, the attack after the proportion in the clock always has to be of attack the chalice, always has to be of GEO damage, and the helmet of critical damage. If you have his weapon because the probability will exceed normally, you will have great probability. And you'll have enough in the stats as they should be, because a little less recharge wouldn't be bad either. It depends on the equipment, but when you take Albedo, it's more like a GEO battery than if you pray with Albedo. It's always 135, and if you pray there, if you have to try to reach 140 because if you regenerates less energy than Albedo. So here the 146 are well sought, the ratio 72-30 that comes very close around here. Nako, who is the person of the community, very old and very dear in the community that I thank him to give us the account. And once you have already capped the proportion that here would be missing a little bit more items, you know that they are never perfect, everything in attack basically, and to finish. And I think the build has been very complete, but the short and concise time I'm trying to move from 30-minute whiles to 15-minute whiles. The weapons, well, the weapons lately in the builds I have separated it by normal weapons, 5 stars or not so easy to. You know that Hoyoversers plays a lot. There are guns here that have 4 stars, but they only came out once as a promotional. Example of that, the Shifos that everyone is like crazy for taking it out, or the Sable Darsina for Nile that is a weapon. A one-hand splint that gives life, that only came out once in the whole 4-star game and then a section. That many people are starting in the game, or it doesn't take that much, or it doesn't have a lot of pool. And always ask for Yai of the most free weapons and events. Well, there's a lot of combination of weapons. For NAVIA, it's basically easy to detect them because NAVIA is a carry, and only uses, as I said before, critical proportion and attack by. With which, mainly the weapons that best come to NAVIA are the basic weapons of critical proportion in general. The ones that are stronger for her at harm level would be her own weapon, of course, her best weapon. After this we would have a weapon that I have told you is the best controller in the game globally and versatilely. That is the emblem of the Sea of Reeds. Degia, critical probability 40% attack on the passive 5-star average base, attack a madman's controllable. And then, a lot of people carry Wolf Olapia or something. But this is a mistake. Why? Because you'll have a lot of attack. You'll still have more attack with Bennett, but you won't have high critical proportion, and also if you have a weapon of the Wolf's capacity directly from here, we can go to free-to-play weapons because there's not much more controllable to give us critical proportion, and within the free-to-play weapons, there is an incredible weapon that is the controller of Dark Rock that gives us 55 critical damage and gives us 510 base attack. That's not that high. But you're wearing a Bennett. You have a nobility, and you have your 40% additional attack passive if you have Bennett plus Furina on the team. Additional bonus for as an armed GEO Albedo to win 20% more attack and compensate, and also the Snake Marrow. That many you carry with NAVIA also gives you a great deal of harm, inflicted that you can maintain, because NAVIA, it generates crystallize and has a shield, but between this weapon that the passive is pretty strong that it's pay to win because At least $50 in 5 battle passes to have the R5 you have to spend and the Dark Rock that is free to play. Because you bring it out with shines in the store and you don't need to refine yourself, I would recommend you as more free to play the Dark Rock. This weapon would be more in the category of weapons than 5 stars, and if you have not been able to save for the crag. Dark, I'd tell you it's the easiest weapon to get, and the most powerful weapon for NAVIA. This gun right here gives us too much recharge. In fact, but when you cover all the recharge, you can search all the substats already, you can look for critical ratio. No more looking for power and you can look for some more attack, but already the weapon even gives you 48% attack. In substat more or less, in the Dark Rock base, attack 565, that to be 4 stars is moderately high, little more ship. Has some other weapon I could use, but really the free to play would be the Supreme Super Magic Sword and the Dark Rock. That everyone can acquire in the 5 stars or pay to win would be the Medulla of the Snake, though I would recommend the crag, as I just explained, by the fact that it doesn't cost $50 and directly already sentenced, and weapon of Dihaehe. More guns out there, savages, than if they meet the criterion of having critical proportion to help you weather it well. But this is the pool of arms of ships synthesized for today, that there are 80,000 weapons. Poquito more. So to explain the same but more synthetic. His team the rotation explains at the beginning of the video. But the reality is that after talking about NAVIA's versatility, and the whole story is used only continuously in the same equipment that is Furina Venet NAVIA, and an additional GEO, so that the rotation that is explained is generated the crystallized ones, so that once between NAVIA pulls the ulti, and you do not need to throw the ulti before losing all that damage next to the Bufo of Venet, that 3 GEOs are played mainly because I would say that Albi was the one that most recommend for the generation of energy. For a very good damage as sub DPS for the flower that can be repositioned, and for the ulti that, before you enter ship, you put a brutal amount of geo hits, so that already ship between always full loads in 2nd position. If you pray that if Ori could generate more ceilings of damage, then albedo. If you have it with constellations, if Ori is incredibly dependent, but very with which care, because it will do more damage, but all the equipment must have more recharged energy, and that in the end compensates or decompensates in some way. And the third option is to play our Lie, which is not bad at all. And before between, NAVIA generates some crystallized mainly with its ulti. After the combo of Furina little more. This is the build of NAVIA. Leave me the comments if you have it, and how much is the maximum damage per Gunezo that you have come to do if you have reached 500,000 already. Thanks for enjoying and watching all the videos and up to here. As I say, leave a good ulti of Venet to recommend the video, to reach the channel, and to support as always you thank for all very careful. Having a very good day. Chateau.